There is a justice that does not sleep, a justice not ruled by the hands of man, but by the hands of heaven. When you were betrayed, when you were slandered, when the people who were supposed to protect you turned against you, God did not look away. When you cried behind closed doors, when you were left in the ashes of what others tried to burn down, God was not absent. He saw it all. Every word spoken against you in secret, every plan made to stop your purpose, every act that was meant to break your spirit, He was watching. He was recording. He was already preparing the answer. God does not need to rush to respond because His justice is not temporary. It is eternal. And when God rises to deal with those who tried to destroy you, it will be in a way that leaves no doubt who was in control all along. He may allow it for a moment. He may let it look like they succeeded, but that's only because He was setting the stage, not for your destruction, but for your deliverance. There is a sacred comfort in knowing that nothing done against you has gone unseen. In the moments when you felt betrayed, when lies were spoken behind your back, when your heart broke under the weight of false accusations or silent rejections, you may have wondered if anyone noticed, if anyone cared. But heaven was watching. Every tear you shed in secret was counted. Every act of dishonor done in the dark was exposed under the eyes of divine truth. While others may have forgotten, while your name may have been dragged without defense, there was a higher court keeping record, not out of vengeance, but for justice. In times of trial, it can feel as though the wicked prosper. The ones who manipulated, gossiped, or tried to shut you down may appear to be winning, but appearances are deceiving. God is never unaware, and His timing is never late. The delay in response is not weakness, it is divine strategy. He allows space, not for injustice to reign, but for hearts to be revealed, for motives to unfold. Sometimes the delay is not punishment, it is preparation. For you to grow, for them to fall into the traps they've set for others, and for the truth to rise without your hand having to lift a single stone. You were never forgotten in the silence. Every moment you were mistreated, every scheme formed against you was laid bare before the throne. There is a justice that transcends courts and titles. It doesn't matter who tried to cover up their actions or hide their intentions. What is hidden from man is still exposed in heaven, and heaven will never allow your purpose to be defeated by lies. When your heart was broken and you had no words left, God heard the language of your pain. That was enough. Your silence was not weakness. It was strength. You chose to endure. You chose to trust. You chose to keep going, even when everything around you said quit. Your story is not defined by what they did, but by how God is about to respond. And while the world may have overlooked your pain, your character and suffering has qualified you for vindication. There's a divine record, a holy justice, and an eternal memory that never fades. What was done against you will not be ignored. Every attack will become an opportunity for God's hand to be revealed. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are held, watched, and defended by the one who sees it all. And soon, what was done in secret will be exposed in the light, not by your voice, but by the power of the one who never sleeps. Keep standing, keep trusting, and keep your peace. Because what they did was seen, and what God is about to do will be undeniable. Justice in its purest form doesn't come from people, systems, or courts. It comes from a higher authority that is never swayed by emotion, politics, or manipulation. When someone tries to harm you, discredit you, or destroy what was meant for your good, there is a divine order already in motion. That order doesn't need to announce itself with noise or threats. It operates quietly but powerfully. The hands of heaven move with perfect accuracy, not in haste, but in righteousness. You don't always see it happening, but the shift begins the moment you are wronged. Not a single act of malice is missed. Not one. The beauty of divine justice is that it doesn't just react. It acts according to eternal truth. While human justice often needs evidence, witnesses, and approval, spiritual justice requires only one thing: that the truth exists. And the truth always does. Even when others lie, even when they create stories or twist your intentions, even when the crowd believes the wrong version, truth doesn't vanish under attack. It just waits for its appointed time. And when that time comes, justice flows like a river, cutting through every false word and setting things right with undeniable power. There are moments when you'll be tempted to take matters into your own hands, to respond in anger, to clear your name, to prove your side. But the wisdom of waiting often produces a far greater reward. Because when the justice comes not from your mouth but from above, no one can deny it. No one can say it was biased. No one can take the credit. It becomes a testimony that something higher than man is at work. That's the kind of justice that transforms hearts and silences every enemy. Sometimes it seems unfair that the people who cause the most pain walk away untouched, unbothered, but that's only what it looks like. Don't be fooled by temporary silence. Just because someone hasn't faced consequences yet doesn't mean they won't. The delay is never denial, it's grace. Grace gives them time to turn around. Grace gives you time to heal. And when that window closes, judgment comes swiftly and with precision, not for your satisfaction, but for heaven's justice to be fulfilled. Not because you hated them, but because what they did cannot stand unaddressed. So rest your heart. You are not responsible for the outcome. You are only responsible for trusting the process. Let the divine court handle the verdict. Your job is to remain in alignment, to keep your integrity, and to walk forward in peace. Because when it's time for justice to fall, it won't come with explanation. It will come with evidence. And everyone who doubted, mocked, or tried to break you will know this was never your battle. It was always His, and His justice is never late. It's only perfect. There is a strength and restraint that most people will never understand. When you are wronged, it's natural to want to defend yourself, to set the record straight, to make sure others know the truth. But choosing not to retaliate when you're attacked, choosing silence when you're slandered, choosing peace when you're provoked, that's not weakness. That is one of the greatest forms of power. It is proof that your spirit is not ruled by the chaos around you, but by a higher peace within you. When you could have lowered yourself to their level, but chose instead to rise above, you didn't lose power. You gained it. The world teaches revenge, but heaven teaches restraint. It teaches that the one who refuses to repay evil with evil is the one who invites divine favor into their situation. Every time you resisted the urge to lash out, to post back, to fight dirty, you made room for a higher power to act on your behalf. When you stepped back from the fire, heaven stepped in, and in the quiet of your surrender, the wheels of justice began to turn. Slowly at first, invisibly maybe, but turn they did, and nothing can stop what's already been set in motion. You may have been misunderstood. You may have been mocked for your silence, accused of being passive, or even blamed for what others did to you. But what they didn't know is that your silence was a strategy, not for manipulation, but for miracles. Because when you keep your hands off what's meant for God, you allow Him to put His hands fully on it. And when He moves, He doesn't just correct what was broken. He elevates what was hidden. He doesn't just bring justice. He brings transformation. The battle wasn't meant to be yours. You were never designed to carry the weight of vengeance. That burden only poisons the heart. But when you lay it down, when you surrender your right to get even, something sacred happens. You enter into a realm where your character shines brighter than any accusation, where your endurance becomes the very thing that positions you for the next level. That restraint becomes your evidence of trust. It becomes the testimony that you believed more in divine timing than in public validation. This is why you've been called to wait. This is why you've been asked to remain still, because what's being written in your story isn't just a moment of survival, it's a revelation of strength. And soon, the very people who questioned your silence will marvel at your outcome, because what you did in restraint, heaven saw as trust. And trust always brings reward, not always on your timeline, but always in fullness. Let them talk, let them move, let them assume. You just remain planted, peaceful and still, because your restraint is not forgotten, it's recorded, and from it justice and blessing will flow. There comes a moment when the tides turn, not by your effort, not by your voice, but by divine design. When you've endured betrayal, false accusations, or attempts to break your spirit, it can feel as though the enemy has won. But that is never the end of the story. The same God who allowed the battle is the God who will raise you up after it, not just to restore what was taken, but to elevate you to a place even higher than before. What tried to destroy you will become the very reason you're lifted. The ashes of your struggle will become the soil of your promotion. Every setback, every closed door, every attack was not random. It was allowed for a purpose, not to diminish you, but to strengthen you, to prove to both heaven and earth that your destiny is not fragile. It is unshakable. You were never left to fend for yourself. Even in the darkest moments, when no one stood by you, when your name was thrown around like it meant nothing, the divine hand was still working behind the scenes. You may not have seen it then, but you will see the outcome. And when you do, it will all make sense. What they meant for harm will be turned into the very proof that you were chosen, protected, and destined for more. Your rise won't come from effort alone, it will come from favor. Doors will open that you didn't knock on. Opportunities will find you that you didn't chase. And the reason is simple. You trusted, you endured, and now it's time. It's time for restoration. It's time for honor. It's time for elevation that no one can take credit for except the one who saw it all. The beauty of this elevation is that it doesn't just silence your enemies, it glorifies your endurance. It takes the broken pieces and turns them into a mosaic of strength. It shows everyone who watched you struggle that you were never truly defeated. You were being prepared. You were being positioned. And now what they said would destroy you will be the very thing that reveals your strength. You will not return to where you were before. You will surpass it. And the world will know, not only were you not destroyed, you were preserved for something greater. This isn't just about vindication. It's about divine intention. The ones who tried to bury you will watch you bloom. The ones who questioned your value will witness your rise. Not because you proved them wrong, but because you remained faithful. Because you stayed true to who you are. Your rise will be quiet, sure, and undeniable. And it will be the final chapter in a story that was always meant to end in victory. The pain was real, but so is the promise. And now it's time for the promise to speak louder than the pain ever did. The conclusion of this speech is a powerful reminder that no attack, betrayal, or injustice against you goes unseen or unanswered. While others may have tried to break you, silence you, or strip you of your purpose, their plans will never succeed against what has been divinely ordained. In the quiet moments where you chose peace over retaliation and faith over fear, you invited something far greater into your life: divine intervention. The justice that comes from above is not only perfect but redemptive, turning your trials into triumphs and your pain into promotion. You don't need to fight your enemies. Your rise will be your response. And when the time is right, every weapon formed against you will be broken, and you will stand not as a victim but as living proof that you were always protected, always seen, and always destined to overcome.